Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Not. We're going to find out what the Torah says about the occult, magic, witchcraft, fortune-telling, channeling, and evil. We have as our guest Rabbi Elyahu Kin. He is the rabbi of a Sephardic community in Los Angeles and is the rabbi of Congregation or HaChaim. He received his smicha, or rabbinical ordination, from the famous Rav of Ovadia Yosef, Zichrono Livracha. Rav Kin is originally from Brazil, but has also lived in Mexico and Israel. Rabbi Kin lectures in English and several other languages, and many of his lectures are available on YouTube on the 7200 Beverly channel. Rav Kin's lectures focus on everything from basic Torah to Talmud, Halakha, and Kabbalah, or Jewish mysticism. His time is devoted between counseling, lecturing, and kiruv, or bringing secular Jews back to Torah observance. And by the way, he does everything that you find on the internet. Everything there is for free. You can visit his website at torahohr.net, and that's spelled TORAHOHR.net, and we will link on our webpage where the show is podcasted to his website. So welcome to the show, Rabbi Elyahu Kin.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's really good to have you on. So it is October 31st, Halloween, and I wanted, if you could just explain to our listeners why Jewish people do not celebrate a holiday like this.
Well, a Jew must remember that he's always exposed to non-Jewish culture, and there's always the danger of assimilation. So the Torah is very clear about that. B'chukotehem lo telechu. You cannot assimilate to their culture, you cannot follow their traditions. Now, it is possible that some of their traditions are compatible with Torah. For example, a lot of people have asked me, what about Thanksgiving? Do you have turkey? And I say to them, well, we give thanksgiving to the Almighty every day. We're very thankful, we're grateful, we make a blessing on everything we eat. But there are certain traditions that are very much steeped in paganism, and they are the ones that are the most dangerous. So, speaking about Halloween, that may be an example of where some of the roots, at least according to some, is paganism. Even though it is a Christian tradition of sorts, Halloween is really part of a 3-day celebration festival, but some of its roots is in Celtic or Welsh culture from the very, very past, which was pagan. And in order for Christianity to influence those individuals, in order to bring them, to convert them to Christianity, they adopted many of those beliefs that those pagans had. And some of the beliefs and traditions are actually common to many religions. So, for example, in Latin America, in Mexico, we have Dia de Muertos. In Brazil, we have Dia dos Finados, a time to pray for the deceased, which is similar to the Kaddish that we have. In many ways, we also have prayers for those who have departed. But it is the danger of coming too close to the beliefs of the pagans that the Torah was concerned about, which is why it prohibited us from emulating their ways and adapting those traditions into our life.
Okay, so basically you're saying Thanksgiving is okay, Halloween not okay.
No, I didn't say that Thanksgiving is okay. I just said that in some ways Thanksgiving is neutral because of its roots, because of what it represents. And if somebody wants to have turkey, it is not such a problem as celebrating Halloween, for example, which I think a lot of people, by the way, don't even know what it's all about. In America, this was a holiday that I think began in the early part of the 20th century. It's only when Irish immigrants began to come to this country that they introduced it. There was more of an emphasis, I believe. Again, I'm not an expert in American history, but I believe that Christians were more into the Day of the Saints, Day of All Souls, and the like, which Halloween became a part of. So the emphasis on Halloween and the festivities is something that caught on very much because it's fun. You know, you get to dress up, you get to go from house to house, and you get candies if you're a child. So a lot of the reasons behind what people do today is really lost in history.
Rabbi, what would you say if somebody were to come to you? I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Yeah.
And they would say, well, yes, maybe the roots were pagan, but it doesn't mean that anymore. Today, it's just a nice, fun holiday. Why kill us having, why be a killjoy? What would you say?
No, that is why I began to say that the greater danger is in assimilation. We don't assimilate to others' cultures because of the problem of assimilation. We need to be focused on our beliefs and in our traditions. And the Torah is very clear about that. Stay away from those beliefs, whether they're nice or not. It makes no difference. So some of their beliefs may be similar to the beliefs that Judaism espouses. However, it's just assimilating which is a problem. So whether something is good or not, fun or not, real or not, is not really the issue here. I actually find one thing that is important about all these holidays, which Judaism would agree with. You see a common ground between many, many cultures in the belief of the afterlife, in the immortality of the soul. Why are they praying for the dead? What happens after one leaves this world? Why are they saying their prayers? In other words, what's the significance of all this? Unless, of course, you believe in the afterlife, unless you believe in Tchiyat HaMetim, that one day the dead will rise. So perhaps, and this is my own thinking, that Judaism did teach or did impart into other religions some of these beliefs. Others, however, are pagan in origin. And that is, again, where the danger lies.
Okay. A lot of people on Halloween dress up as witches. It's a very popular costume. And I want to ask you, what does Judaism say about witches? Are there really witches? Are there really people who can cast spells and have magic and things like that?
Now, this is a big topic, the topic of the occult, which involves not only witchcraft, but also demons, astrology, seances, what we call mysticism. And it's very difficult for me to be just brief about it, but if you want a brief explanation, the Torah clearly says that these forces exist. They are described as forces of evil because there are two camps, the camp of holiness and the camp of unholiness. And in order to allow for free will, God created the ability to do things in a supernatural way, but it's not that it's impossible. The issue that the Torah has with this is, what is the source of this supernatural force? The Torah agrees, believes that these things exist. We take it for granted. However, what we're interested to know is, does it come from the pure side, the holy side, or the impure side? So witchcraft comes from impurity, from evil. It is harmful. And because of that, the Torah says stay away. So we have enough sources in the Torah, in the Talmud, that tell us that this is real. However, it was more prevalent in the past. Today, because of Western civilization, technology, science, and the like, people are less informed about it. They don't know enough about it. Many people make fun of it. Many people don't believe in it. And you even have Jewish people who think that this is just nonsense, but it's not. You have to remember, I come from a country where this is normal. Many people have experienced it. And you can't argue with those who have experienced it and tell them, oh, you're just hallucinating. Whether it's the evil eye, or whether it's witchcraft, or whether it's demons and ghosts, those who have experienced it, those who have seen them, and are reliable witnesses, we can't second guess them. They must be telling the truth, especially when there are enough Jewish sources to back up these claims. So yes, in answer to your question, yes, these things exist. They're not as common today. And thank God we don't come across them on a daily basis.
I'm sorry. When you were saying that you were in the country that you grew up in, that there was this type of thing. You're talking about Brazil, correct?
Talking about Brazil and to some extent Mexico too. If you ask, but you don't have to ask me. You can ask any Jew from Yemen, for example, who was born there, who lived there. To him, if you talk about demons, it's something normal. It's not something shocking. It's quite natural. They know all about it. But if you talk to someone who's from New York City, Los Angeles, London, they may laugh at you. They don't see these things on a daily basis. They think these are just fairy tales of the past. But the Torah speaks about them. Yeah.
So in Brazil, I know that in Africa they have something called voodoo. Is it the same in Brazil? Is that the type of magic that they claim that they use?
Well, you have it in Haiti, also not just in Africa, and you have it in Latin America, but in some different forms. So it's not not exactly the same. Yeah.
Do we believe that it has some power to it? I just need a yes or no answer because we're going to a break.
Yes, we do certainly believe that this has power, and that there's lots of books written about how to avoid them, how to protect yourself, and how to remove a spell in case it was cast. Yes.
Wow. Okay. When we get back from the break, we are going to be talking more about this. This is getting really interesting. Right. We'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. I think I should have played some scary music instead of the regular music bed that we have here. But we are talking about magic, witchcraft. What does Judaism say about it? And our guest today is Rabbi Elyahu Kin, and he is from TorahOr.net. We will link to his website where this page is podcasted. And Rabbi, as we were leaving the last segment, we were talking about voodoo and other types of witchcraft in different countries and different cultures, and you were saying that they do have power, that there is supernatural power in the universe, and people can use it, but there is kosher or good magic per se versus impure. Can you go more into that?
Yes, the Kabbalah actually goes into that a little bit more. Even though this is again in the realm of mysticism, that means that we don't know everything there is to know about it. We don't have a book of laws like the Shulchan Aruch that is codified on this topic. So what we know is from tradition and from experience. There are individuals who have experienced this firsthand. So we know that this is real. And whether this is magic or not, it is something that the rabbis always took into consideration. A person may be affected by it. It could be an illness. It could be he's possessed. He could be that someone put a spell on him, and there were ways of dealing with that. But this is all in the impure camp. In speaking about the pure camp, the Kabbalah, there were great sages who had certain powers that they had from the holiness that they acquired. And this is something that anyone can acquire if he follows a certain path of holiness and purity. And this could be divinely inspired, what we call Ruach HaKodesh. This could be also in the form of a dream, where he's able to see dreams with greater clarity, dreams that are true, things about the future. Or it could be supernatural powers of the likes that we've spoken about, that you call magic, that one can do certain things. And these, of course, are not easy to do. And I don't think there are too many people today that are familiar with it. But it is possible to go against the laws of physics, if you can call it that way, by using certain holy names, which certain Kabbalists were more familiar with than we are today. I don't recommend it. We're told that it's risky, it's dangerous, but it is possible.
Let me ask you about other things. I mean, you're saying that it's very difficult to do, and you're talking about the kosher type from Kabbalah. But when we go into the impure sources of the supernatural, we were talking just about voodoo. I want to ask you also about palm reading, coffee grinds in your coffee cup. After you drink it, they look at the bottom of your cup to see where the coffee grinds were. I mean, there's all of this quote-unquote shtick that people use to be able to divine, to be able to tell your future. Are these all legitimate? I mean, not legitimate meaning kosher, but like, do they really work, or is this just a bunch of trickery?
I do have several lectures that cover these topics more in detail, but in general, there are many ways that one can tap into the spiritual world, to connect to a world that is very, very, very much unknown to us, but it is possible. We're physical, but our soul is spiritual, and it is possible to make that connection, to connect from the physical to the spiritual world. The problem is, are we going to be tapping into positive energy or negative energy? So there were various means by which people were able to do that. The Torah, for example, even discusses the prohibition of contacting the dead. What that means is that there were various means by which you can actually contact certain dead people that are no longer physically with us. And of course this is prohibited, but it can be done. There are means through which one can do it. So there are means through which psychics, for example, can get information about the present and about the near future in all kinds of ways, whether it's by looking into a crystal ball or gazing at something else. The Torah prohibits, of course, all of this. Different kinds of divination. There's, of course, other ways that one can see into the future that is kosher, but it's very, very difficult to know, and that is palmistry. Palmistry, by looking at the lines of one's hand, one can see or know certain things about the individual and about the future. So this is not a form of divination, it's a type of knowledge that has existed from time immemorial that rabbis were familiar with. But
so are you saying that it's okay for a Jew to get their palm read?
No, I don't recommend it, because there are too many charlatans out there who will take your money and tell you all kinds of things, and a lot of it will be baloney. They may know some things, they may have picked up some of it, they may have read a book or two, but palmistry is a very, very complex and deep knowledge base, much more than even an astrology. And very few people, I suspect, very few today are really familiar with it. All I can tell you from experience is that whoever knows palmistry very, very well can know a lot about the individual. And it could be helpful at times. I don't recommend it. In other words, I don't recommend that one should go seek out these people for various reasons. The simple reason is what the Torah says, Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha. You have to be sincere in your faith with God, not to think about the future too much, not to try to figure out things by consulting with these people, because you always run the danger of the slippery slope that may lead to what once was called idolatry. So it's a slippery slope. So unless the individual is a great person who has a great reputation and really wants to help people who are having troubles in marriage, or trouble with some bad habit, with alcohol or drugs, and this individual who will read the poem can somehow guide them, maybe that would be an exception to the rule. But a lot of people like these topics because they're curious about it, they think it's fun, and that's not such a good idea. This is very, very serious, and therefore there are not that many people out there who are serious enough to teach this to others or to guide people in the correct way.
Let me ask you this question, if I can, Rabbi.
Sure.
You were talking before about psychics and channeling, and I remember there was a show on television where, I forgot his name, but he was able to talk to people in the audience and say, there's somebody here, he's an uncle of someone, he's got red hair, anybody can answer that description, and he made these people feel so much better that they were able to have closure with someone who had already passed away. And I'm not saying that what he did was true or not. He could have been a charlatan, maybe I don't know. But also about psychics and psychics who go to help police to try to find out where somebody may have been murdered. Now, if these so-called powers are true, but they are impure because it's not coming from Torah. Is it still okay to use it even though it may help people?
Yes, at times. There are few exceptions where the halacha allows for that. But I just want to remind everyone that there are a lot of tricksters out there. Speaking about trick or treat, there's a lot of tricksters out there who will trick you through all kinds of magic tricks and the like into believing that this is what they're doing. They're gazing into the future. They're contacting the dead. There are a lot of imposters, a lot of people who are really fakers. There are a few who really know certain things, who can do certain things, and at times the halakha brings down that one can even contact the demons in order to search for someone who has been kidnapped, someone who has been lost, and we don't know where he disappeared. There are few exceptions, but the rabbis warn us, even though you have permission to do so, it's a bit risky. You're dealing with demons, and that's a whole different topic. They can be very unpredictable, and if you don't know what you're doing, you can get hurt in the process. So yes, there are exceptions of when we can use them, as long as we trust them, that they are reliable and they have proven themselves.
Let me ask you about the gurus in India. A lot of people have said that they've seen their guru meditate and he's able to levitate, just to rise off the ground in his lotus position. Do you believe this? Is it true?
Levitation is... Levitation, yes, is possible. What I don't know, what I cannot tell you is if that individual who claims he levitated is saying the truth. That I cannot vouch for. Whether someone says, I saw it myself, well, maybe yes, maybe not. It is possible, yes. As I've been saying all along, there are powers out there. There are various ways where one can achieve what we call some supernatural powers. It could be through meditating, it could be through other means. Has it been done recently? Apparently not. Otherwise, you'd have television out there filming it and proving it. I want to really add one very important detail, that in all these areas, whether it's demons, ghosts, or palmistry, there will always be some concealment. It will never be black and white and 100% obvious to all, because Hashem does not want this to interfere with our free will. We have free will. In order to enable free will, certain things cannot be obvious. We don't see souls. Animals can see them, however. We don't see a lot of things. We don't know a lot of things with certainty. We doubt certain things. We, of course, as Jews, follow our tradition. We follow what the rabbis tell us. And that is how we know certain things or believe in certain things. But there needs to be some concealment. God has concealed himself, and people forget about that. They want scientific proof, empirical proof that he exists. They want to see that magic exists, that it can be proven, but it cannot, for good reason. Hashem does not want all these things to come out into open. It needs to be partially at least concealed in order to enable free will.
Rabbi, I'm going to stop you right there. We're just going to a break. We're going to be right back, and we're going to ask about curses. All right, we are back here at the Tamar Yonah Show on Israel News Talk Radio. I'm having a great time here because I am listening to some really creepy stuff. And, once in a while I like to watch a scary movie. And this is kind of like a scary movie. We're speaking with Rabbi Elyahu Kin. He is a rabbi in Los Angeles. He is the rabbi of Congregation Orach Chaim. He has a website called Torah.net. He lectures. You can find his lectures on YouTube. He lectures actually in several different languages. So if English is not your first language, look him up over there. His channel is called 7200 Beverly Channel. So Rabbi Elyahu Kin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
All right. So when we were talking about last time, you were talking about what were we talking about?
Curses?
Technician, help me.
Curses?
Curses. Okay. So if somebody yells a curse at you, and we're talking about a real curse, like God should do to you what you did to me, and I hope you never have children, or I hope you get into an accident and die this year, or some horrible thing. Do curses have weight? Do they have power?
Yes, they do. Words have weight. You can insult people, offend them, and make them feel very, very bad. And people get hurt, and not physically, but emotionally, because of words. On a higher level, on a spiritual level, the words can be also damaging, whether it's a curse or whether it's an evil eye, what we call in Hebrew the Ain Hara. The rabbis discuss this at length. And the best way to understand this, briefly, is that in the same way that the human body has an immune system to protect itself, to defend itself from all types of bacteria that try to invade and weaken it, we also have a spiritual immune system. And the stronger one is connected to Torah in good deeds, then he has a good shield against these curses and against the evil eye. Nonetheless, there are times, and we don't know why and how, but certain curses or certain evil eyes penetrate and they affect people's lives. And it is unfortunate, but this is a phenomena that exists. Judaism talks about it at length. And one can do certain things to protect himself or to rid himself of these things. I'd just like to add, however, that there are people who may be listening who are thinking perhaps about the Rambam, who, according to some, came out against this, discounted them, ridiculed a lot of these things. And it's not fair. It's really not fair or right or correct to say that that was his position. They are lumping too many topics together. The mysticism involves astrology, palmistry, demonology, witchcraft, and it's not right for anyone to say that that was his position regarding all of those. He was very concerned, really concerned about Jews at his time who were drifting. This was the time when philosophy was very strong. He wrote the Moreh Nevuchim, Guide to the Perplexed, because people were perplexed. He sent letters to the Jewish community in Yemen. He was concerned that Jews who subscribe to these things that he held really have no substance. Not that they don't exist, but they really don't have substance. They should really rely on God and stay close to God. By venturing to these areas, you're really taking a chance of drifting away from Hashem. And therefore he came out against it, not because he did not believe that they exist, but because he was concerned that if Jews really believed in them, they would drift as they did in the past, when there was a powerful evil inclination to worship idols. So that is the way I explain Maimonides' position in this area of belief.
You know, I'm going to grab the stage for a moment, Rabbi, and I just want to insert something here. I was reading on Chabad.org, their website, a wonderful article that was about witchcraft, and they were saying that why would anybody want to involve themselves in this type of, supernatural? Because it's, number one, it's denying the divinity of God. If you do what God says, you're going to be blessed. Everything's going to be good. But if you go into this, it's like you're trying to take power for yourself and do things for yourself against God's will. And another thing they said, that a lot of people think it's so cool. Oh, you can talk to the dead. You can see ghosts. That's so amazing. You must be a real spiritual person. But they were saying that, sometimes you're sitting reading the paper in your living room and your dog is on the floor next to you, and all of a sudden he picks up its head, his ears perk up, and he's like looking and barking, and you don't know what he's barking about. You say, Rover, be quiet, there's nothing there. But he can maybe see, actually, and this is if there is, these spirits. And why would we want to lower ourselves to the level of an animal? Animals can see these things because they're on a low level, but mankind, because we have the gift of free will, God doesn't want to confuse us and distract us from what we should be doing in this world, and therefore he makes it so we cannot see all of these spirits, so we can do what we need to do and not be distracted by this. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I will agree. I would agree with this. This is very much along the lines of what I said before. As Jews, we need to focus on our mission. We have, therefore, our Torah and our mitzvot, and there are many, many things in life, in this world, that can distract us.
Rabbi, I'm going to stop you there just because we have a caller. We have Chris joining us from the occupied territories of Chicago. Hi there, Chris. What's your comment or question for Rabbi Elyahu Kin?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Tamar. A very nice show. Rabbi, I'm really enjoying your wisdom and your knowledge here that you're sharing with us. It's really a pleasure. Rabbi, My whole life I've had little dreams, not on a regular basis, but just randomly that come true. Clearly come true. It's not my imagination, and I'm wondering about what is that all about, and also, does God ever talk to us? Does Hashem, as we say, speak to us in dreams? I'd like to hear your thoughts on these matters.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Great question. Thank you, Chris.
Great.
Go ahead, Rabbi.
Yeah, Chris, very good question. But since we don't really have the time to get into this topic of dreams in depth, I would say that you would perhaps have a more clarity on this topic if you listen to my lectures on dreams. But dreams can be real. Most of them are not. We all dream. We forget most of our dreams, and God does communicate with us through dreams. So I would not say to pay attention to every dream, but I would tell you that at times the dreams can be real, and many times you will dream about something that will happen in the future, because that is exactly what happens. The soul gets first-hand information about what is going to happen with this individual, whether it's a week or two from now, a month from now, or even sometimes years from now. And I don't have an explanation why sometimes a week or two and why sometimes years ahead, but that is something that does happen. But again, for a more clarification and a better understanding of this topic, you're better off listening to the lecture where I discuss the questions that you raised.
All right, very good answer. Thank you, Rabbi. I want to ask you one last question. Do we believe in evil spirits like dibuks, like a demon that can come inside our bodies, and a rabbi, or even a non-Jew with the priest doing exorcisms? Tell us about that very briefly.
Obviously, yeah, Judaism as well as other religions have a tradition that these phenomena are real. There are many, many stories documented by reliable witnesses, religious Jews who have not only witnessed it, but they were experiencing this themselves and sought help by rabbis who specialized in this area. There were recent dibukim, in the time of the Chafetz Chaim of blessed memory, that no one's going to deny. No one will deny that they never occurred. There are, however, other situations where people are quick to blame a dibuk, whereas it could be something of a schizophrenia or the like, or it could be that the schizophrenia is not a schizophrenia, but it is a dibuk. Unfortunately, we don't have qualified rabbis today who are familiar enough with this phenomena, who can actually deal with that and help the individual, which is why we don't see or hear too many situations of this nature. In the past, however, they did occur, and there are many, many accounts of it amongst the Sephardic communities and Ashkenaz community that they did exist. But again, it needs to be concealed. It's not as revealed.
And what about non-Jews, though? Do these priests really have powers to exorcise a demon from someone?
I don't believe that a priest has certain powers, but he may know certain things, and he may not realize that what he's doing is driving away the spirit, not because of powers that he has, but because of the impurity that is around him. And as a result of all that impurity, the spirit may well run away from it. So it's not so much about the power that the priest has. He may be doing something unknowingly that is driving away the spirit. In other words, the spirit doesn't want to be around this kind of a situation where there's so much impurity. Yeah. So this is, again, an area where we don't have too much information about, but we all agree, whether you're Jewish or Christian, that there are enough accounts that describe this in great detail. These things exist, and it was, of course, possible to deal with them if the individual who was helping the victim knew what he was doing.
Hey, Rabbi, I want to ask, we just come to the end of the show, where can people listen to your lectures, and specifically also to the one on dreams? That's what Chris is sending a message to us.
Many of the lectures are hosted on 7200 Beverly on YouTube. Other classes are on Ora Chaim, which is another channel on YouTube, and I'm preparing a new website that will bring together all the lectures on Torah and on these type of topics all in one place, so soon, hopefully.
Wow. Okay, Rabbi, it's really been a pleasure to have you on. And again, just to sum it all up, we should not be celebrating any holidays that have to do with the occult. We should not be involving ourselves in the occult. This is avodah zarah, which is idol worship. It is bringing us away from God, not where we want to be. We want to be glued to God. And thank you so much for your words of wisdom, Rabbi.
Thank you.